Thank you so much for doing this with me today, Noelle. First of all, I would love to know, why did you first seek out support to help improve your relationship with food and work with me?
About 3 years ago, I was tired of not feeling good. Pretty much constantly bloated, sick to my stomach, and that was most of the time, typically around meals. I was then diagnosed with GERD, and that kind of threw me over the loop because that complicated everything that I had to do with food now, to the point that I just didn't really want to eat anything anymore. Um, they assigned me to a hospital nutritionist, and I just didn't get what I needed to kind of move things forward. I didn't get the transformative help. It just wasn't there. And I was taking a ton of supplements, and it was funny because every time I'd have a surgery, they'd be like, "Okay, you need to stop taking all of this stuff. This is a blood thinner, this is a whatever." I said, "Okay," because I was, you do a lot of search on the internet and you come up with, "Oh, this is something good," and, "Oh, I do have this problem." So I had a ton of this stuff, and, I had been following you for years. I've been making your recipes and just following you along, and, um, after the GERD, I said, "I need help," and so I said, "Okay, I've got a local nutritionist, and I have you," and you were in New York, and I said, "Oh, I'll just go local." It's before COVID. I said, "I'll go local," and so they started teaching me again about making stuff on my own, the freshness, because I'm a very processed person, and making a lot of switches, but it was still the diet mentality. It was still all about losing, which was fine because that was my cure all. That was my metric. That was my life is going to be perfect once I lose the weight. And I did. And I did lose the weight. I worked with a trainer. I had her, and I felt like crap. I was hungry all the time, and I started developing habits like not writing down the number of milk duds I had, or binging on the weekend. I'd be really clean Monday through Thursday, Friday, and I would hit and it would be okay. Pizza, enchiladas, you name it, I would have it because I couldn't have carbs, I couldn't have fruit, obviously limit to sugar. I couldn't have anything, so I'd binge on the weekends, and then on Sunday night, I'd go back to track, but I'd feel cruddy for the week, and I was just playing this kind of silly diet catch-all catch up and exercising, and then I would be lucky if I had a week where I was twice a week. 3 was, like, monumental if I could get to the gym because I felt horrible, I was tired, and it just wasn't working, and then I was diagnosed with heart murmur, which ended up being a mitral valve that totally failed, so I had to have open heart surgery. COVID hit, I had to wait a whole another whatever, 6 months. I was in congestive heart failure. By the time they got me to surgery, then I had lung inflammation, pneumonia, and I came home and I said, "This is." I had to make a choice. I was like, "Well, I was just going to go back to my nutritionist. Let's go back to normal. Let me just go back and hope for different results." And
Diet cycle.
I don't know. I'd been following you, and I just said, "You know what? Everything you," because I really kinda dived into your website and started reading all your blogs. I'm like, "You're making a whole lot of sense." And it was not deprivation, and it was a freedom that I wanted. I didn't have to feel guilty and play the, "I'm gonna exercise more." It was just a very different type of a lifestyle. And I said, "What the heck?" And that's really what it was. I said, let me just try it, because what have I got to lose?" Because of COVID, cardiac rehab was also totally closed down, so I had nothing. I came home from heart surgery. 4 weeks later, I had the lung inflammation, pneumonia, and then I'm sitting here at home going, "Now what?" I don't have any support. Of course, the surgeons were all like, "You need to lose weight and don't eat carbs, don't eat fruit, only have 1 time of fruit." I mean, they were, so I was like, I'm going, and I just thought, "Well, I don't wanna go back on this track, because 'cause I'm gonna keep going with my dumb habits," and I said, "Let me try something different." And yeah,
So
and
I would
here it
love
is.
for you to explain a little bit about, thank you for sharing so much of your history, but I'd love for you to explain a little bit about your mindset. Like, if your surgeons and your doctors, you had congestive heart failure, you had all that inflammation in your lungs, and your doctors were telling you, like, you have to lose weight, you have to do this. What made you seek out another option that weight loss wasn't at the forefront of?
Because on with when I worked with my local nutritionist, I had lost the weight. I had gotten down to the weight that I had on my sheet of paper, my goal weight, and I was there. And getting there, I felt bad. Getting there was deprivation. Getting there was torture fitness. And I'm like, this can't be right. I just didn't feel good. And it was really crazy because I was exactly where I wanted to be. So in that sense, my nutrition and physical trainer, they were fantastic. They did exactly what I wanted because that's what I wanted.
Right.
I lose the weight, I feel better. And I didn't. And I didn't. My GERD was out of control. I didn't feel better. And I thought that was so frustrating. And I didn't understand that at all. And so when I started going into your blogs, you were saying things that were like, I can't do that. What are you talking about? I can eat bread now? I can't do that. Pasta? No, I can't do this. Food freedom? I can have an Oreo? No, I can't do that. So it didn't make any sense. And I was curious enough to say, okay, well, I don't feel good with the weight loss at all. And what's crazy is after my when I kind of finished my whole heart thing, I gained all that weight back. I gained it all back. I gained that 20 right back. And so that was another level of frustration. But I didn't feel good. And I thought that was so surprising that I didn't feel good at the weight that I had wanted to be. And that was quote healthy.
Yeah.
BMI, whatever the chart was at the doctor's office, the BMI and the weight was where they wanted it to be. And I
Yeah.
didn't feel good.
So you mentioned like that I was telling you that you could eat the bread, you could eat the pasta, your favorite milk duds. I know is like one of your favorites, and you're such a good
Absolutely.
baker. So what was it like to hear once you joined the nutrition training program? And what was it like for you? What was like the light bulb moment where I said that you were allowed to eat these foods that had been off limits for so long? How did you begin to change your mindset? And your relationship with food.
The First of all, I didn't believe it. I mean, I'll be 100% honest with you. I did not believe that this could work. When we started, it was about lifestyle, and I think that understood that, but I thought that I was pursuing a lifestyle when I lost that weight, and that wasn't lifestyle. That was getting to my point on my piece of paper. But that was not something I could upkeep. Lifestyle was something the way you were talking was totally different. It's just it's to the point that food was not you're not constantly thinking about it. You're not waking up going, "Okay, I gotta balance. What do I gotta eat for breakfast? And if I eat, oh my, if I eat this muffin, well then I gotta figure out what to do for lunch." And it was constantly I was thinking about food all the time and then making the wrong choices because I'd eat the bad stuff. And then I feel bad about that. So and I was thinking, well, maybe this is just a creative way to lose weight. And it wasn't, it was lifestyle. And I never truly understood what that meant. And it wasn't long after starting working with you, you'd have these little exercises and things for us to do. And I'm like, this is really kind of simple. I don't need to do this. And I would do this and go, wow, I don't even know when I'm hungry. I don't even know. I can't even answer that question. I mean, it was I didn't realize how out of touch lifestyle is being in touch with your body. Things something as simple as am I hungry? And getting training in that, I know it sounded really crazy. I'm like, this is crazy, but for a lifestyle, you have to get trained because if I wasn't really hungry in the morning, I'd push it off for maybe an hour, but I was very clockwork. Get up at 7 to eat at 8. Well,
Very common.
no, I don't have to. My fitness had to be torture. No, I've come to a place where I have the energy and I enjoy it now. So, it was a lifestyle component of what we were talking about.
you were also a rock star that you once you decided to join the program because you did have this history of and like cycles of dieting and cheat days and going on and off and feeling kind of crappy, you very much jumped into the program. And as simple as some of the exercises are that we do in the nutrition training program, you really jumped in with 2 feet and were like, okay, I'm going to embrace this and see how I feel because I kind of have nothing to lose. So you sort of like hit
Yeah.
that diet rock bottom. You're like, I had congestive heart failure. I regained the weight. I lost the weight and still felt like crap.
Horrible.
So let me just jump in. And I think that by embracing something different, you actually were able to shift your mindset a lot easier than people who might like be holding on to that dieting mentality, which
Yeah.
was really awesome to also see. So I'd love for you to talk on like from the day we first started working together, how do you feel now? Like, because you said like even after you lost those 20 pounds, you still didn't feel so well. But how do you feel now after going through the program, getting in touch with your hunger cues, like you mentioned, eating the bread and the pasta? How do you feel?
I have never felt better. I I think back and go and think of where I was before I started, which was after the heart surgery, and now it's night and day. I mean, I'm to the point, and this is a huge milestone for me, is buying clothes that actually fit me. And I'll be honest, I'm not happy with where I'm at weight-wise, but feeling good is something that my doctors never asked how I felt. Nobody asked it. That wasn't part of the day, and now it is, and now that it is, I'm buying clothes that actually fit me. I can train 7 days a week simply because I want to. A skip day is simply because, well, maybe I just don't feel like it, and with my heart, there's some days I just don't feel good, and I'm able to actually see that, feel that, and know what that feels like and say, "Okay, I'm not gonna do that." The difference between a craving and an impulse was huge. I thought that just meant the same thing, and either way, they're bad, and I just should not do it. So that's where I got into that whole, like, cheating. I wasn't, like, writing everything down, but understanding that a lot of my food was the exercises you did, I was like, most of this is impulse. And to kind of, why do I have that impulse? And also seeing how I felt with a craving versus an impulse. It is totally different, and I wasn't aware of it. I wasn't aware of that difference. So now with the craving, like, summer's coming up, especially like ice cream, I know the difference between when it's an impulse, grab that handful of M&Ms or my milk duds versus, I really want to have some ice cream and being able to enjoy, some of the exercises of sitting with your forbidden foods and kind of putting it on a plate. Um, those are all things I never did. And some of those really simple, small little steps you had us all do, I feel totally better. Eating out, I'm to the point now that eating out, that whole balanced plate mentality, it's not a diet mentality, that's lifestyle. And I'm able to apply it to my eating out without feeling like, oh, I'm depriving. No, because if I want pizza, I have pizza, but I'll offset it with some vegetables and some salad, some fruit. So, as opposed to eating the whole pizza on a weekend and not having it the rest of the week, I don't make 2 meals anymore, 1 for me, which is good, and 1 for the rest of my family. I don't do that. I feel so much better about choices. Choices aren't bad or good anymore, they're just what they are. Food is just food, and I can make the choice based on what I'm feeling and what I want. And I know
Totally.
it's not gonna make me feel good, but I also know how now to plate something that if I do want something that I know, like a glass of wine, is probably not gonna sit well with my GERD, but I know how to couple it with a balanced plate, and I can have that. Um, my family,
I was just gonna ask.
my
Tell us
kids
about your
have
kids and how
my
it
kids
impacted
have
them.
paid attention and watched me kinda divide up the plate. They've seen it and they've asked questions. And I now see my kids making those looking at their plate or actually saying, "I'm not hungry now." And for kids, as a parent, you're like, "What do you mean? You must eat. You must eat 3 times. You must eat 3 times a day, and you must eat this." but there are times when it's like, they're not hungry at 5 o'clock, but you know what? They are at 7, so they're starting to have the habits of what I would call that lifestyle. You eat when you're hungry, you don't overstuff, you don't put things off because that's total imbalance. So, I don't weigh myself anymore, because again, I'm going with how I feel, and, um, that's totally different than how I used to live.
So you mentioned before that like you're not thrilled with your weight,
Mm-mm.
and you said that also that you don't weigh yourself and you go based on how you feel. So I would love to know what how do you sort of manage not, let's say, loving where you are physically with also wanting to feel good and eating the foods that help you feel good?
Because with working with you, I know what it means to listen to my body, to so when I'm doing that, when I'm listening to my body, whether I'm gonna get on the elliptical, do I feel good enough? Um, when I'm putting a plate together, I when I know I'm making choices that are lifestyle choices and I can maintain them, that's another thing. How long we working together? I don't know, but I've maintained this. That's another thing that wouldn't has not happened. You just go
Yeah.
on these little weird little cycles.
Yeah. Would you mind telling us a little bit about your triglycerides and
So
what
that
happened
was
when you went to the doctor a couple of months ago?
so when I obviously, when you go before heart surgery, you have all your parameters done, and they didn't like the cholesterol, they didn't like the HDL, whatever, they didn't like the triglycerides. They put me on statins, high level statins, fine. I had gone to the doctor back in March and then got the scolding again. It's like, okay, you've got to bring these down. So I had asked you, okay, what can we start to do right now? And you gave me 3 or 4 things. I did them. My triglycerides are 243. They went down in a matter of 6 weeks, maybe about 6 weeks,
Wow.
down to 152. Normal is 150. My doctor's like, what did you do? And it was just it was very simple things that we shifted some things we were doing, and it was like my body physically, I've never seen that. Because again, when I was where I would want it to be weight-wise, my cholesterol and triglycerides were still through the roof,
That's so
especially
key.
triglycerides. Triglycerides were seriously, they were close to 400.
Yeah.
So
So
that
key.
was it was I didn't understand
Totally.
that, but yeah, but now, I mean, everything is now at normal levels, and I
Yeah.
didn't, other than adding more fish or whatever we had to, I didn't do anything. My doctor even told me, I had the test on a Friday. She's like, "Well, why don't you, kinda just take it easy, eat more salads, eat more vegetables before the test." I'm like, "That didn't make sense at all to do," but that's what she told me to do, and I didn't. I just made some
And
changes, no, it
fasting,
was
right? She said to
yeah,
fast, right?
yeah.
Make sure, yeah.
Yeah,
So
which you have to fast for the test for 12 hours, but she was talking
yeah,
about
like
I don't
days
even
in
know how long,
advance.
but what I thought was crazy, but I
Yeah.
didn't do that, so my levels are totally fine.
Totally. And that I love that because that result is not atypical. Studies actually show us that when you learn to become a more intuitive eater, that like you do have lower cholesterol and triglycerides and your
Mhm,
weight stabilizes and we don't have to think about these things as much. But I love your story so much because we didn't overhaul your diet. You didn't
mhm,
fast, you didn't only eat salads, you didn't restrict yourself. You just like ate normally. We made a couple small tweaks when we learned that your triglycerides were high and it brought it right down. So
yeah,
I love that part of your story as well. So I would love to know, to wrap this up, what is something that you are most proud of for yourself?
um, I think that would probably be the perseverance. I mean, it wasn't the easiest thing to do, and it just didn't make any sense based on and everything that you read and what your doctors tell you, it made no sense, and it was just sticking with it, and you put it in such, like, little more of a bite-sized progress stuff that it wasn't overwhelming. I wasn't overwhelmed at day 2, so I was able to get through this and build every week, every day, and, you kinda brought back the fire to get back into life because I wasn't enjoying my fitness, I wasn't enjoying eating, I wasn't enjoying cooking, so I didn't like to have the foods that I liked, those were sneaking around kind of, so you brought kind of the fire back into just going about my business, and I don't think about food. I just don't think about food all the time anymore like I used to.
It's amazing. It's
It is
amazing. I'm so
amazing.
proud of you. You put in the work, you did it. If you had something, if somebody was like on the fence of joining the nutrition training program, what would you tell them?
Go for it. It is gonna be the best money that you can invest, and you might kinda look at the overview and go, "Well, this is just intuitive stuff, and I know it, and it's simple." It's not, because I was totally shocked at how completely disconnected I was from myself, and best money that I've ever invested, and I've done a ton of different things that just didn't work.
Yeah, you're not alone. Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad you are an A plus student. You did such a good job. You really embraced everything, and I'm so proud of where you've gone, where you came from, where you've gone, and how like you just embraced the whole process. So, thank you so much. This was so helpful.
Good.